up, book lovers? It is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today to talk about some of the new authors that I read in 2021. If you didn't know, this is a 7 on Sunday topic. I am the host of 7 on Sunday. I will link the Goodreads page down in the description where you can check it out, or you can participate in a topic in the future or suggest a topic. Our first 7 on Sunday, that's kicking off the month of December. That means that we're at countdown list time. I love this part of the year because I can finally look back at all the reading that I've done this year and either celebrate it, discriminate against it. It really depends on what topic we're talking about. And today, I'm going to be talking about some new authors that I read and was introduced to this year. These aren't necessarily debut authors. I mean, maybe some of them are, but I'm pretty sure majority of them are not. So I guess without further ado, let's get into the video. First author that I've got to mention on this list today is an author that I've read 5 books, 1 novella, and I'm currently reading another book from them. They were one of the first new authors that I read this year. In fact, January is when I started reading their books, and that, my friends, is Danielle L. Jensen. So you guys already know how much I rave about the Malediction trilogy. I'm currently reading the 3rd book in the Bridge Kingdom series. So I'm currently reading the Inadequate Heir, and I'm really enjoying it. I don't love the Bridge Kingdom series as much as I love the Malediction trilogy, which is a very unpopular opinion. I think it's because a lot of new adult readers really push the Bridge Kingdom series, but the Malediction trilogy I felt like was just always slept on. I'm really excited to read the continuation of the Bridge Kingdom series and to see if it's going to be one of my favorites. I'm really enjoying the Inadequate Heir so far. So if you guys don't know, it's an Audible exclusive, so it's a longer audiobook. I love longer books because I love more time with characters and getting to know them, and I think that Danielle L. Jensen does an absolutely amazing job with establishing her characters and just making them lovable, and I think you just want to spend more time with them. So I'd say she's probably one of, maybe the favorite new author of the year for me. I didn't mean to reveal the first one as like my favorite, but when I really think about it, I think she's my favorite author that I read for the first time this year. So I'm just gonna say that. I'm just gonna publicize that on the internet right now. 2021, I discovered Danielle L. Jensen's writing, and I have no regrets about that. The next author that I got into this year was Deborah Harkness. If you guys don't know, Deborah Harkness is the author of the All Souls trilogy, aka A Discovery of Witches, which, funnily enough, this week I actually started watching the show. I love the pacing of the show. Even though it's slow, it kind of feels like I'm reading the book for the very first time again. So I've only read the All Souls trilogy, but it solidified my love for Deborah Harkness's writing. Absolutely love all the elements that she's able to incorporate in such an intricate world that kind of feels like our world. All Souls is perfect for anybody who got into the Mortal Instruments at a young age and is wanting to read something that's a bit more mature. It kind of has those paranormal creature elements to the story, but it's also very much grounded in our reality. It's also very historical, so I'd recommend it for anybody who's read the Mortal Instruments or the Infernal Devices and is wanting to get into something that's a bit more mature. A Discovery of Witches or the All Souls trilogy or anything by Deborah Harkness in the All Souls world will do. I've watched like 2 episodes of A Discovery of Witches, which is the adaptation of All Souls, and I have to say that it's just making me fall in love again. You guys, if you haven't followed me on my channel for a while, probably didn't know that Jennifer L. Armentrout was a first-time author for me in 2021. I did not read the From Blood and Ash series when it first came out. I've heard about Jennifer L. Armentrout since I started BookTube. There were so many booktubers that were raving about Jennifer L. Armentrout's Luck series and even her Covenant saga, the Dark Elements series. I remember those days of BookTube when everybody was raving about those series in particular. And I thought to myself, I might get into them, but I don't know. I wasn't really into paranormal romance as much as I kind of am now. I'm not technically of young adult age anymore. Like, I'm 26 now and I'm just enjoying some good cheesy YA at this age, but like at the age of 21 I thought that it was childish. How weird is that? But I'd say From Blood and Ash catered to me personally because From Blood and Ash is more of a high fantasy, even though it technically also caters to paranormal romance readers, because Jennifer L. Armentrout has that paranormal romance style to her writing. It's not necessarily catered to regular high fantasy readers, unless of course I might be wrong. Like I'm not speaking on behalf of everyone, but it feels a lot more homely for anybody who loves paranormal romance, in my personal opinion. That's why a lot of people who love high fantasy do say that From Blood and Ash is not the best one that they've read. However, I just really enjoy the stories and the plots that she is able to come up with. I think that at times she's genius, and at times I think to myself, this is just a comfort read. So that's how I feel about Jennifer L. Armentrout's books. I think I've read 10, because I've read the 3 From Blood and Ash books, I've read 1 Flesh and Fire book, I've read 3 Dark Elements books, which in my personal opinion was not the best trilogy. I think that she's definitely improved over time. And the Harbinger series, which is a trilogy as well. I've technically read 10 books from Jennifer L. Armentrout this year. Wow. Definitely an author I go to for comfort reads. And next I want to mention Kerri Maniscalco. Now this one is probably shocking to a lot of you guys, because Kerri Maniscalco has been hyped up in the booktube community for years now, since the first Stalking Jack the Ripper book came out. I remember when I was in my small corner of booktube, I was seeing like a lot of people raving about this one book. And now Kerri Maniscalco has published their 6th book. She's still getting hyped. She deserves it based on my reading experience of the Kingdom of the Wicked series. I've not yet read Stalking Jack the Ripper. Excited for my special editions to come in. I'm very much excited to get to know Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell, because everybody else in the community absolutely loves those characters. But I really loved the Kingdom of the Wicked series, and even though I didn't love the first book as much as everybody else did, I definitely feel like the second book elevated the series. And also I really love Kerri Maniscalco's writing, and I can totally see why everybody fell in love with it from the get-go. Now I want to mention Melissa Gray. This is an author that I don't know if we talk about here much in the booktube community much anymore, and the reason why I believe that we don't is because Melissa Gray has not published anything as of recently, but I read her Girl at Midnight series. Funnily enough, Melissa Gray is scheduled to publish a new book next year, which I'm very much looking forward to, because I wanted to read more from her after I finished the Girl at Midnight trilogy. As much as I have very bittersweet feelings, mostly bitter feelings, toward the final few chapters of The Savage Dawn, which I do explain in one of my videos, link in the iCards, I really loved her writing throughout the series, and I loved her characterization. I felt like she was able to make me fall in love with these characters effortlessly. I would recommend it to get to know her writing, but if you do not like sad endings, this is probably not the series for you. However, Melissa Gray is an author that I am very much looking forward to reading in the future, and I'm so happy, overwhelmed with joy, to know that they are going to be publishing another book next year, because it's been a few years. From what I know, since they've published a new book, I could be wrong. I just haven't really been seeing them pop up in the latest young adult author releases as of recently. But mid-year next year, we are going to be experiencing a standalone from Melissa Gray, so I'm very much pumped for that. Another author I've got to mention is Maggie Hall. This is another author that I read one of their backlist series this year, and I don't actually know whether they are planning to publish anything else, but let me tell you, the Conspiracy of Us trilogy is without a doubt one of my favorite new series ever, and it does not get talked about enough. Maggie Hall is a very good writer when it comes to just really highly intense scenes. I really don't know how to describe this, because there's a lot that I don't want to spoil when it comes to this book series, but it's really that good. And also the way that she wrote that hate to love dynamic in the book, in my personal opinion, one of the best that I've seen. So I would like to read more from Maggie Hall in the future. She's one of the authors I read this year for the very first time, and I have no regrets. I loved that series, and I'm really happy I discovered a new favorite, and potentially a new favorite author in Maggie Hall. And now I've got to mention an author I've only read one book from, and that is Lexi Ryan. So you guys might have heard my recent buzz about These Hollow Vows. I loved that book, and I know that Lexi Ryan has a backlist of books. Lexi Ryan is actually more of a new adult steamy romance author from what I know, but this was her first venture into young adult fantasy. I mean, I'm excited to check out any of her work, because she really won me over with These Hollow Vows. It just proved to me that she knows how to plot, and she really knows how to write plot twists. You might know there is one specific character who is not really likable. I did not like him the entire book. she wrote him in a way that you are meant to sympathize with him and stuff. I did not like him the entire book, but I was still blown away by how she executed everything. I was not bored the entire book. It's a good Cinderella reimagining as well. I would love to see Lexi Ryan write more young adult fantasy or young adult reimaginings, but regardless, I do plan on checking out Lexi Ryan's backlist. These Holy Vows is also the book that I personally voted for the Goodreads Choice Awards in the young adult fantasy category. I don't know if it will win compared to either Cassandra Clare or Leigh Bardugo, but that's the kind of support that I will back it up with. And now I've got to mention Tracy Wolff, who is the author of Crave. Now, similarly to Jennifer L. Armentrout, Tracy Wolff is definitely a comfort read author for me. The Crave series, I can't say that it's the best series since sliced bread. It has a lot of tropes that we've seen before. It has a lot of themes that we've seen before. People compare the book series to Twilight, even though it's not Twilight, but that's technically the marketing strategy campaign. Even the covers, technically that marketing strategy campaign. It's meant to be feminist Twilight, whatever. But it's so different. And I like how she's able to write this boarding school setting and do it very well, as well as make you fall in love with the characters. Tracy Wolff isn't necessarily one of the best authors in terms of writing for me. However, in terms of comfort characters, in terms of comfort themes, in terms of sometimes me just wanting to read about millennial humor, even reading about Generation Z humor, she's really good at that. And I'm not gonna lie, they might age in the future, but I'm just enjoying these things in the now. And I think that Tracy Wolff's writing is a perfect example of that. I think at one point she wrote into a scene a specific song that came out not too long ago, like a few years ago, and I could just hear it so vividly when I was reading the book. It made me so excited in that one scene. That scene was magic to me personally when I first read it. I love it when authors are able to do that, to kind of suspense your reality a little bit and make you hear a song or make you feel something based on funny sense of humor. I don't know. I think Tracy Wolff does it in a very good way. Definitely an author that I will continue reading in the future. The second last author that I do want to mention is Lizelle Sanbury. Lizelle Sanbury is the author of one book that I read this year. That is Blood Like Magic. And let me just say that that book was so intense. It kept me on the edge of my seat, quite literally. Like I was sitting in this corner and I just could not stop reading, but also could not stop feeling anxious for what was going to happen. Even though it is technically a very slow book, I could not stop reading it. I read the book in one sitting, and the book is like almost around 500 pages. It's a really chunky book, but she kept me entertained throughout the entire thing. I went into this book wanting a romance story based on the premise. So the premise is essentially the girl is meant to fall in love with her first love and then is meant to eliminate her first love in order to claim her family's magic. That is essentially what the plot is. So I thought to myself, I was gonna go into this book and I was gonna be really excited for this Romeo and Juliet kind of romance where they absolutely fall helplessly in love. But no, that's not what I got out of the book. No, if anything, like the romance was very secondary to me, even though, you know, I do want to see that explored. The thing that I loved the most about this book was her family. I loved the scenes with her family. I think that was so intentional. It was so intentional on the author's part because this is about essentially keeping her family's magic and saving it essentially because she has a duty to do so. And you get to know her family, you get to know every single one of her relatives in kind of good detail. You're more attached to her relationship with her family than with the romance that is kind of involved. It's technically meant to be a hate to love dynamic. I think that this hate to love dynamic was very interesting and I think that it will be explored in the sequel. But oh my goodness, the stakes in this book were super high and honestly, I was pining for her family like the entire time. Like you'd understand if you've read the book. I think that Lizelle Sanbury is an amazing character writer. Yeah, there's a lot of diverse representation within this book as well that a lot of people have been praising it for. But what I have to say about Lizelle Sanbury is that she's a talented writer and I believe that she's gonna go places, but you guys need to support her book. So I would recommend you read Blood Like Magic because it was a 2021 release that was absolutely worth all the hype. The final author that I want to mention on this list today that I read for the first time in 2021 was Brigid Kemmerer. So Brigid Kemmerer has mostly received a lot of praise and a lot of buzz with their Cursebreaker series, which in my opinion was not the best series ever. However, Brigid Kemmerer, in my opinion, is still a very talented writer. I don't believe that the series should have ended in the direction that it went in. This week I was on one of my book subscription service Facebook pages because everybody talks books there and it's really fun time to just interact with the conversations. But there was literally just a bunch of people talking about as much as they loved the first book in the Cursebreaker series, they were really saddened underwhelmed by the direction that the series went in, and they specifically did not like Ren, which makes sense. Really wish that he wasn't done dirty. I think that he had potential for a development arc. This being said, I've not given up on Brigid Kemmerer. I did love their first book, A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I have Defy the Night on the way to me right now as we speak, because I received that in the Bookish Box subscription, so I'm just really excited to receive that. And I'm very much looking forward to reading Brigid Kemmerer's books in the future. She has a major backlist from what I know. I am very much looking forward to reading Brigid Kemmerer in the future, but I'm also very much looking forward to seeing if she's going to continue on with more Cursebreakers content and potentially give Ren a little bit more of a development arc, because in my personal opinion, we need it. So I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. Let me know if we both had some first-time authors of 2021. I'd like to know if we had any of those in common. Also, if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also, I have social medias. I'm at GSwizzleBooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at GSwizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it in a double. Started out with half and I flipped it in a double.